What's up, guys? So today we're going to be talking about when to text a girl or a guy after you've gotten their number. And we've all heard the phrase 3-day rule or some sort of similar concept before, and it's this general conception, and I'm not saying it's right, but this general consumption that you have to wait at least 3 days, or the longer you wait the better, because then you come off less desperate and more busy, which is cool. And here's my whole thing about that. First off, my personal opinion is that it varies. It depends on if you're the guy, if you're the girl, if you got the number or the girl got the number. It also depends on various factors like freaking how the interaction went, if there was chemistry, what the sort of vibe is between you guys, what sort of relationship is established between you guys, a whole bunch of stuff. And from there it gets even crazier, because when you think about it, this is something that's very recent. Mobile phones and text messaging is typically something that's very, very new. It's something that really didn't occur in the last decade. And so it's this whole advice on this topic is brand new, because in the last 50 years, most of the time, you didn't have this culture. You talked to the girl and you had to base everything off of physical, person-to-person interactions. And everything was based off that. And when you went to high school or when you went to school, or even after school, what typically happens is you're freaking going to have to talk to the girl and say, I'm going to meet you up here. There was no mobile phones or computers or instant messaging or email or Facebook to keep in contact with the girl and constantly be able to contact her wherever she is, as long as she has said device. And so the problem with this is that we get stuck in this sort of virtual world or virtual reality where we're just constantly on our phones thinking that once I have her number, everything is completely fine, because now I can just contact her wherever. And it's just stupid, because it's still based on human to human interactions. And yeah, enough of my spiel. The point is, though, it depends. And so here's my opinion on the topic. And first off, I do agree that there's a lot of variables involved, but what is more important, though, is how the interaction went and what was established. And I do agree that the longer you take to reply to text messages, or the first amount of delay from the first time you get their number to the first time you send your text message, will convey how desperate or how busy you are and how much importance you play into the whole interaction. But the problem, though, is you can still get the same thing if you text her immediately, or a minute after, or 5 minutes after, or an hour after you obtain her number or his number, and achieve the same results. But it's much harder, and most likely you'll screw it up and convey neediness or desperation, which will prompt her never to respond to your first text message, because your interaction was bad. And so how do you get it so that you can text her immediately, or 5 minutes after, or an hour after? Well, that really depends on how your interaction went. If the chemistry is there and you have a lot to talk about and so forth, it can very much work out. But obviously, this usually only works when you're doing something like you have some sort of friend-to-friend interaction, and you've established a relationship to be, oh, we're just friends. Because think about it, there's a lot of people who meet each other of the same gender, and they're just friends, and they click immediately, and then they're texting immediately, even less than a few minutes after they obtain their phone numbers. And so usually though, in these sort of interactions that you're concerned about, you're either a guy or a girl and you've obtained their number. And even if you haven't directly established something, like you haven't explicitly made any signs or statements that you're interested, most people don't do this. They just, obtain the number. There's that underlying vibe there because of that heterosexual interaction, because this is a person of the opposite gender, and whether it's because both of you are attractive enough or whatever, you get that sort of underlying tension there, even if it's not even true, and therefore texting too early can warrant that sort of thing. But again, it depends on so many different factors as well, like if your relationship is just really colloquial and you are friends and it's established you're friends, then you can text whenever and most likely it won't be a problem. And even if they don't respond, when you see them next time, it's not a big deal because you can just be like, oh yeah, I was busy, or because maybe you were busy. So it really depends. And as you can see, there's a lot of underlying traits that very much matter, such as, for instance, how needy or sensitive are you if they don't respond, or how busy is your life and how much importance do you place onto this interaction. And so that's just a general vibe, and long story short, it very much depends on a lot of different things. There's a lot of different variables down to it, but if I had to give you some general outlays of advice, I would say, first off, if this is some sort of interaction where it's heterosexual, then I would recommend not texting too soon. Like, will it really kill you to wait an hour or a day to text this person? If not, then maybe either one, you're really, really desperate and you're screwed anyways because of that desperation, or two, maybe you really want to talk to that person because you clicked very well and you have a lot of chemistry and so forth. Then if that's the case, then go for it. But again, as you can see, it varies. So if you have the chemistry, go for it. It doesn't really matter. But generally, you want to, wait a little bit. But I also think it's preposterous waiting something like 3 days, 4 days, 2 days. Sometimes you don't even want to wait at all, especially depending on how you met the person, how it's going, the environment. Because especially if this person is really busy, or he has a lot of stuff going on, or she has a lot of stuff going on, it's not that she doesn't like you, it's just that she's going to forget you if you do not text back soon. And even if you can, in your text message, remind her, oh yes, I'm this guy where you met here, it's just, the whole situation becomes very, very strange and different and awkward because you're coming from that angle of, oh yes, 1 week ago I met you here and I have not text messaged you since then because I am busy, when you're not really busy and you're just trying to seem like you're busy, or you seem like you're not that desperate. So it really very much depends, but I definitely think that somewhere in the first 2 to 3 days usually works. Not too soon in the first hour or so, but like I think the golden zone's like anywhere else. But again, the whole thing, as I've said, is very recent stuff with technological advances. Like before mobile phones, sure, there's email and instant messaging, and that's what people usually obtain. But before that, there was like your home telephone, and that's usually not how couples met or communicated. Even if they had a home telephone, it was usually through human-to-human interactions, and that in itself is kind of scary in the fact that people have sort of reverted to this sort of, oh yes, this digital world, which can really screw you up because at the end of they're going to base their interactions off human-to-human interactions when they receive your text message. And for me personally, I think that this whole thing with text messaging, it's kind of cowardly by its very nature. So I definitely think that sometimes maybe calling or spending more time with the person in real life and rarely using your phone is probably the better thing. So that's all I want to say in a nutshell. And if I left anything out, or if there's anything else you have questions on, leave it in comments. As always, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.